This episode we are going to put in the flange on the door. We're going to put in the flange on the engine bay side, and we're going to fix, where is it? Down here somewhere. We're also going to put in place this panel as well. I know I said we're going to do the inner wheel arch next, but I think we'll actually do this first. For two reasons I think. One is I've got the wing on, and so it saves me on and off once. Second is when we bring on the inner wheel arch, I don't want to then have to change the outer and then try to make it fit again. So I think if we get this done first, that makes some sense. So we've clearly got a bit of outer wheel arch which we've just put in, which is going to overlap. I'm going to keep it on the new panel. I'm going to cut, you can't see it, I'm going to cut here, okay, and I'm going to weld the panel in all the way along there. Before that I'm going to get a better fit. So at the bottom here, the old one sticks out, so we're going to just trim the old panel off here to get this to fit better. And then at this end, this panel is also sticking out a little bit over the sill by, I don't know, a 1/4 inch I guess. So we're also going to have to trim this panel down so that it fits properly, but I don't want to do that until I've got it up and in place properly, because at the moment it's at an angle and yuck. So we're going to start by trimming the bottom and getting this to fit. I cut this piece off here so that I can get this connected up as well as I can at the bottom. Doing that then enabled me to actually see the line, and it's, you know, my original line was a good bit, I don't know, 1/4 inch lower. Yeah, maybe even a bit more. So before I do any more, in order to fix it at the bottom I need a flange the whole way along. This one didn't go all the way along and it's not actually fixed in at this point, so I'm going to extend this flange over so that I've got the length. I'm going to do spot welds in here, that way I've got something for this to connect onto, and then when I'm fixing it like that I know that I'm fixing it where it's going to be, and so I'll know roughly I'll know better where this line needs to be. So before I take any more off here, I'm going to make sure that that all fits in nicely. Okay, my extended flange is in place. I did spot weld it, but I never really trust my spot welds still, so I've also, since I could, put in a weld along the top there. So we'll give that a quick coat of zinc primer, or maybe we won't bother actually, because yeah, we will. We'll give that a quick coat so that it's protected now, and then we'll come back up to look at this again. I tacked it into place whilst it was on the car, and I decided it'd be easier to weld taking it off. So just here I need to trim it so these two match up, and I can pull that in and weld them together. In here I managed to blow a few holes. There's 3 quite big ones, and I'm having a break to move away from that because I'm getting, and I've similarly got one here. Other than that it's okay. Just at the end here I haven't cut yet, so at the end there, that is, I'm just thinking about how to do it. So it comes into here, and I know mine's a bit long, but what I'm thinking about doing is just cutting through this bottom bit. I'm guessing won't amount to much, and so if I cut through and then pull this up to weld it in place, and then I've got this kind of weird, I don't know how far is that, it's about that far, okay, so there, so what's that, 5 millimeters or something, probably not even that, well maybe, but it just sticks out that much. Now, you know, this is a panel piece, you'd kind of hope it would fit a bit better than that, but so what I'm thinking of doing is, if I cut this off and weld it up there, and then I'll just sort of trim this at a slight angle to try to let it come back in line with this. If it looks okay on the car, I mean, either way I'm going to trim it so that it looks right on the car. But I'm not quite sure what that will be just yet. So we're making progress, just not quite as good as we did with the wheel arch, which I really was quite pleased with. But we are making progress, and we'll just take a little break, make sure I don't rush things, and come back to it. Okay, so that's held on with a couple of bolts and some grips. It's not quite as good as I'd done yesterday with the arch, but I have managed to get rid of the holes. I need to grind it down a little bit more here and a little bit more here, and then the rest will do with filler. So you know, front wing is coming along. I was looking at the front corner over here, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, because this is, we've got a curve like that, we've got this, we've got an indent here, so this is going to be very complicated even to do as half a dozen pieces. So in typical fashion we'll leave that until later. I don't know if I said before, but what my plan is at some point when I go to my parents is to try to make a template or a copy of the one that's there, so you know, build over it and then bring it back to weld in place. So with that done, what that means is that we're going to look at the top and the flange. Okay, so what we've got here is we're going to have to, at some point, work out how this fixes and gets welded up here. Alright, so I've still got this in view, yeah. So I've still got, this is metal that's left on here, so there's a couple of spot welds in here. And so that needs to come off, and similar up at the top end up here. So I've got to take these bits off, and then in here on the wing, clearly there's a strip of metal that needs to go all the way. Clearly there's a strip of metal that needs to go all the way along the bottom. The butts up against and then comes up. So then comes up and has the tiny little lip over. Now I think that's how it's done. And then it has to be spot welded in place. Now that's going to be really quite hard because we're going to have to pull it in and spot weld it like that. I'm also not sure if it goes the whole way along or not, or if there were only a couple of places where it hooked over. I can tell that from the other side, so it goes the whole way along. Okay, and what I don't know is, so on the fender still, I've got this bit at the bottom, but then it looks like there's another piece of metal on there as well. So I'm not quite sure if there is some other structure that's meant to be in there that it sits on. But if there was, it would be completely rusted out. And I certainly, without taking the other side apart, at which point I'll be in the same position as I am here, I don't really know. So I'm trying to work out how to do this sensibly, is I guess where I am, and I haven't quite worked that out yet, so I'm thinking about it. And the other element of that is this vertical bit on the fender is very rusty as well, so I'm actually going to have to weld a piece in along this curve, so that's going to be non-trivial. I'm going to have to weld a piece in then I'm going to have to go horizontally and then up, I think, and then fold over, or maybe not, maybe I just well, actually, yeah, no, I think it's sensible to do a little bit there. So, and it's also rusty. And the other bit is, I don't know if you can see here, but this, I mean, it almost looks like that's where it would have connected because it's so straight along here. Okay, but it absolutely doesn't fit in there any longer. So, but I suppose if there was a vertical bit, it would connect to that. Or I've managed to weld this too tight, too far over, which is a terrifying possibility. So I'm not sure. Yeah, so I'm not sure what to do here and how to go about it. So I'm going to think about it for a bit. A couple of days later now, having thought about it long and hard, I decided that the way this was probably done was along the engine compartment side. There is a piece of metal that goes down and across with a little nice curvy lip over it, and then in the door where it goes down and across, and then they sit on each other. And I thought that because this doesn't come all the way over, I had a look on the other side and took some filler out, or seam sealer, and it was clear that actually there was a gap there as well, so that's kind of standard. And I also emailed Red's Garage, and if you haven't seen his videos on YouTube, you should check them out. His TR7 work is just stunning, and the quality of the videos is stunning, so I mean both things is just wonderful stuff, so you really ought to check it out. I'll try to remember to leave a link for him. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start by doing a piece that comes along here, goes down, goes out. It doesn't matter if it sits a little bit below this one currently, because what we'll do then is, having got that piece in, we will do a piece here that goes down, and then we'll put the fender back on the car, okay, and we'll lay a piece flat that goes along here, push it up against, tack weld it in place, take it off and weld it from the back side, and so that's how we'll get it to the right height. So we're going to start by taking the wing off, drilling out the spot welds that are in here to get these little bits off, and creating a new piece to go along here. So that's a nice simple piece that's been fabricated for it. Now I need to be able to press it down slightly at this side so that it lines up with think I want it to line up with this, so I'll need to trim it off and get it down a bit here. And this side I need to just make sure I've got it pressed down when I do it, and I want to cut it off here. So I've got a bit of trimming to do and such. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take it off, I'm going to put some weld through on it. So it's got something. I'm going to take the fender off, I'm going to drill out the bits that are still on the car. Well, I've got to do some grinding here, but I think this looks okay. It's a bit high here, which I need to grind off a bit and then fix in place. I need to obviously grind down all my spot welds. I've got a bit here which is left over from the work I did on the inner sill, which I need to grind off, but even then I'm a little bit low because we can see here where it used to go. So you know, I've gone a bit low here. I don't quite have the curve in, and then at the end we have a big curve down which I haven't got, so I've got to cut this, then clamp it and weld that. So overall I think I'm a little bit high at this end and I'm a little bit low at that end. Alright, well, I'm not too fussed by that because you know, I've not got a new door coming in, a panel coming in. All of this is going to have to be cut off, at least. I don't want to come up right to the edge, but up as high as I can go with a new vertical bit welded in. So what we'll do is we'll weld that in and do quite a decent vertical bit with plenty of length. So that will take it, so all of this will come off, that will take it down, and I can then lay a piece of metal flat along the flange that I've created and just tack weld it along here to fit it. At least that's my plan. Alright, so I'm out of metal though. I need to either buy some, or I have my old MG bonnet and I could cut that up and start using that. And I think I'm going to buy it because actually when it comes down to it, the metal isn't that expensive and I'm not so proficiently skilled that I can deal with the extra complexity of trying to take out the slight curve in the MG bonnet. So we're going to go and look at ordering some stuff now and see what we can sort out, and then we might come out and finish this flange off today, or we might leave it for tomorrow. So that's in now and ground down, it looks okay. I'll give a quick spray of paint to protect it. I did try it with because I haven't done a lip over the edge, which it really should have, but what I'm thinking about is just a rubber seal to clip in along there to prevent any kind of ingress of anything, and I think it will finish it off nicely. I did try with this on it, so ignoring the big fat bit, just, you know, if you cut it off and just had this bit along there and lowered the bonnet down, and it looked like the bonnet would catch and close and be nice and snug, so I think that would actually and hold everything looking very good. I think that would actually be quite nice. But I've not tested the opening mechanism of this bonnet yet, and so I didn't actually try shutting it to make sure or anything like that. We'll see when we get there. I'm not worried about that just yet. Right, I've given the edge a quick clean just to see how rusty it is and where, and as you can see, both at the front of the car here and at the back of the bonnet here, the rust comes quite up onto the actual fender, you know, rather than in the bonnet gutter. Whereas in the middle it is really just down in the gutter, so in the middle here it doesn't come up all the way, it just comes to about here. I'm uncomfortable having to weld so close to the edge here, really. simply because we know my welding skill isn't the best. So what I think I'm going to do, and I'm going to have a little think about this, but I think I'm going to start with a section in the middle here, possibly as far as here. Okay, and cut out the rust here and then weld in a piece that comes down below this. Alright, so we can get that in, and then once that's in, I'll worry about the two ends and look to improve, you know, and look to come all the way up and fix these holes. Then we can, with that all in and ground down, we'll put it up against the car again and we'll lay a strip down the middle to weld into place. So that's the plan, but I'm going to think about it. I'm not going to do it today. So I've got a nice forward piece of metal to go in here. You can see it's much thick, in terms of depth wise it's much thicker. I think it might actually be thicker in terms of thickness as well. Yeah. But anyway, so I mean, I could conceivably line it up with the holes at this end and then just bring it as far along, and it basically would take out, if I trimmed this bit, it would basically take out all the rust. But I end up getting quite close to these rusty bits here, and I don't really want to do that. So what I'm going to do is, it's about here, I'm going to do a piece here. I'll cut this strip I've done here. I'll bring in this piece first and we will trim it here to fit in. We'll do a nice straight line here so that we can fit it more easily. Okay, and that's how we'll cut it out. So from there, and then with what we've got remaining, we can then shift that and bring that in and do that. So we're going to do those two bits like that initially. We have here the first part in, and not looking too bad. So I did make a slight mistake here, and I cut slightly over and into the top of the sill, which I'm disappointed with, but we'll deal with. It is just a couple of welds. So the next bit will be to do a piece along here from the top. So this is going to have to be trimmed down a bit, so that it fits in something like that. So we'll trim it here, then we'll come up and fit it in like that. So that's stage 2 of this bit. So we've got this bit in as well now. I haven't done as quite good a job on it, which is disappointing. I need to fill in a couple of welds still. I had real trouble cutting near the edge here, but I do think that with a bit of filler we can make that look decent. So I'm okay with that. So the only bit to do now on this flange is this bit here. So we're going to deal with that next. As you can see from here, we've now got the whole of this along there. So the vertical bit has been replaced the whole way along. It goes down too low, and we're just going to go over and look at that. So now when we look at this, what I need to do is lie a piece of metal down all the way along here, which I'm going to weld onto the bottom of this. So I've just tacked that into place. I had the fender up against the car, fixed on. I laid this flat, pushed it up against the side and then tacked it in. Now what's interesting to me is I thought I had made this really far too deep, but actually here I've made it only just deep enough, so yeah, that's quite a surprise to me. So I've got to learn that when I'm thinking of making it too big, I actually possibly need to go just a little bit further to make sure I've got the depth that I need. And that's the finished product. It's back on the car. I shouldn't be surprised, but I was surprised at just how much more rigid this is now that we've got this in place, and it makes it easier rather than harder to put on, which is a nice surprise. So I think we'll use either seam sealer or filler down here, so it is all welded on the other side, but I think just to be sure. And I think when we fix this in place, we'll actually possibly put some seam sealer in between the two to help prevent any rattle or make sure it seals. I don't know. So I need to take it off again and give it a coat of paint, but for this episode I think we'll call it done.